first off, if I drop the mic and you like this, someone just gestured to for me to push it back up and swallow it, so you guys can hear me. Little background on myself before we get started. I'm from Hills, Minnesota. If you don't know where it's at, right across the border by the casino, but the casino's in Iowa. So it's right next to the casino is where Hills is at. It's a really small town, 600 people. And I grew up with, as you saw in the video, two older brothers, Colton and Dalton. They're 6 and 8 years older than me, so I was the little annoying brother growing up, as they would probably tell you. No, but I loved growing up in a small town. Nothing beats it. I would ride my bike to daycare when I was 6. We would, play town tag and run around town. We would go to the basketball courts and lower the rims so we could play dunk ball. We would have, home run derbies. And that just continued until, we were growing up in high school. And then we were driving around and going to Sioux Falls and playing frisbee golf or going golfing or, still lowering the rims so we could dunk. No, but I loved being outside and just being competitive with my friends and my older brothers. It was, ever since I was young, I kind of had two friend groups. I had friends that were older than me and friends that were younger than me. So when I would, be on the sports team, I was either, kind of the younger one and looking up to my other friends. And then, the next year, 2 years later, I'd be the older one on the team. And it kind of, just continued like that into high school and into my senior year. I was really looking forward to my senior year because, kind of like I said, I was going to take some classes with some of my younger friends. And I really hadn't got it taken to kind of hang out with them in the high school yet because they were a couple years younger than me. And so, we had art and study hall together and stuff like that. And like I said about being kind of the older one on the team now, I was going to get to play football with my younger friends because they were actually going to be starters this year. So I was really looking forward to just my senior year in general. And then, the fourth day of my senior year, my life was turned on its head. It was the second football game of the year. It was against one of our biggest rivals, Mountain Lake. They are always really competitive, and every time that we play them, you can usually tell how the rest of your season's going to go. It's always a game that we look forward to. And my senior year was going to be kind of a really different year. I was really one of the only kind of two-way players on the team, starters, and so it was a really fresh year, and we didn't know how we were going to be. So this was a really important game, and it was back and forth the whole time. It was definitely a four-quarter game. It was getting down to the wire. We were up 28-20 going into the fourth quarter. And with about a minute and a half left in the game, they're driving on us, and it's third down, and the play comes to my side. As you saw in the video, this wasn't a bad accident. It wasn't a tackle that I made the wrong way. It was a tackle that I made dozens of times before. But instantly, I knew something was different. I wasn't in pain, but as soon as I made contact with him, I was on the ground. I didn't feel myself fall to the ground or spin. I didn't feel the force of the impact. It was kind of just as soon as I touched him, I was laying down on the ground. And so instantly I knew something was a little weird. And then I just continued to lay there. I wasn't panicking. I wasn't freaking out. I was kind of just laying there waiting for something to happen. So then obviously, the next play is fourth down. So basically if we stop them on the next play, we win. So I have teammates coming up, asking what's wrong. Some of them are telling me, like, hey, good job, but, like, let's go. We have one more down. But I wasn't saying anything. And then the coaches came up to me, asking me, can you feel this? Can you feel that? And that whole time, when you would think that you would be in sheer panic and just uncontrollable emotions, I had none of that. And, whether you could say that's science and I was, in shock or whatever, but I want to say that that was just a total God thing, that he kept me so calm in a position that you would not be calm in, right? And so eventually, they get me on the stretcher after about, felt like 15 minutes. But so I get him in the stretcher. They wheel me across the field, and I go to a local hospital. And as the ambulance doors are closing, my coaches are there, my parents are there, and I can just see, like, total fear and worry in their face. They're, like, teary-eyed, and they're looking at me, and, and so that was definitely a long ambulance ride. It was like a 5-minute ride, but I remember that feeling like it took forever, just because I didn't know what was going to happen. And so I get to the hospital, just the local hospital in Windham, Minnesota, and they do a CT scan. Well, by the time I get done with this CT scan, they had kind of prepared for the worst. And so I get out, and they tell me, all right, you broke your C5, C6 vertebrae in your neck. The fragments of bone are putting pressure on your spinal cord, and there's a helicopter in the parking lot waiting for you to take you to Sioux Falls to get some emergency surgery done to hopefully relieve the pressure. And after hearing that news, again, seeing my parents' reaction, seeing my brother's reaction, was the first time that I really started to break down. Not because I knew what any of this stuff meant, but because I knew what none of it meant. And I knew nothing that was going to happen in the next couple hours, days, weeks. Like, I was going into this completely blind. And that was a pretty scary thing at the moment. So I get in the helicopter, and I honestly don't remember a whole lot from the rest of that night because they gave me some really good medication. No, but the next day, I heard from... So the next day I wake up at probably 7 a.m. This was I want to say it was like a 6 or 7 hour surgery. And so as soon as I woke up, doctor came into the room and kind of broke down what the diagnosis was or what was going on at the moment. So I broke my C5, C6 vertebrae. If you can imagine, in your neck where it bends the most, that's like right where your C5, C6 is. So it's like the most common neck injuries when people break their necks. It's kind of that C5, C6 range. Tells me, what they did. So they, it's called like a laminectomy or something like that. So they took pieces of the bone fragment out that were broken, made like a paste, made a new bone, and then they put some titanium rods in on each side to kind of strengthen it. And that was kind of it. And, they're like, we'll see how you progress. And so that next morning, I got to hear from my friends what all went on the night before. And so my friends were one of the first ones to get in there, and they're like, dude, there's like 60 people in the waiting room waiting to talk to you. I was like, okay. I don't know what to do with that information, but I just want to talk to you guys. And honestly, from that moment on, I don't know if I was ever alone in the hospital. And I can't tell you how much that helped me through it. As a 17-year-old kid, just my friends being there for me. And they were awkward the very first time they went in. And then my mom talked to him, and then they were like, and she was like, hey, he needs you to be a friend. And that was completely right. Like, if you have a friend that's going through stuff, like, just be there as a friend. Like, you don't have to have the right answers. It's going to be awkward, but just show up and be a friend. And that's, like, that'll help them so much. Anyways, as I'm in the hospital, again, just an overwhelming support, not only from my friends and my classmates, but my parents' friends and my brother's friends, and just people that I don't even know are showing up to give their support in any way they can. Facebook page was started. That ended up getting like 20,000 followers on it. I suppose just like the whole football thing, and then maybe, my attitude towards it was people found to be inspirational. I had no idea why in the moment. I kind of just saw it as like, hey, I'm just going through this, and I don't like it, but, what else am I going to do, right? So I was in Avera for 3 weeks, and kind of towards the end of my stay, conversations with the doctors got a little more serious. I wasn't progressing like they had hoped for, and so, I had a lot of difficult questions to ask. I was a 17-year-old kid. Stuff that came into my mind initially. I remember the first question I asked was like, am I going to be able to drive again? But then, it's like, what about school? Like, how am I going to go to school? Like, the only thing I can do right now is lay in a hospital bed and, like, not even feed myself supper. Like, what about college? Like, I want to go to college eventually, and a job. Like, how am I going to do a job? All of these questions were coming to my head, and no one knew the answers. Doctors didn't know the answers. My parents didn't know the answers. It was kind of in that moment that God really put it on my heart, just to take this thing on one day at a time, because that's really all I could do. Philippians 4, verses 6 through 7 says, don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Tell God what you need and thank Him for all He has done. Then you will experience God's peace, which exceeds anything we can understand. His peace will guard your hearts and minds as we live in Christ Jesus. I think that is the most fitting verse for a situation like that. I have nothing to do but to rely on God. All I have left is my faith. Like, I don't know, let alone do I not know what the next year's going to look like. I don't know what the next couple months. I don't know what tomorrow's going to look like. I don't know what therapy is going to look like, what I'm going to be doing. And so God really just put it on my heart to take this thing on one day at a time. And that's really how this whole thing started, was right there. So eventually, I left Vera. I went to a place called Craig Hospital out in Denver, Colorado. It's a specialty rehab for spinal cord injuries and for brain injuries. One of the main reasons that I chose to go out there, it was a hard decision because, like I said, I didn't like being alone. I loved the support that I have. I loved my friends being there every single day after practice and after school. But I knew it was going to be the right decision. And one of the reasons that I chose that was this program called TRAC, Teen Rehab at Craig. I went there because I knew that there was going to be other kids around my age going through the same thing. And boy, was I right. That was the best thing that helped me through that when I was out there. It was people of all different levels of injury. So it was kids who had, broken their lower back, and kids who couldn't move anything at all. And, there was me kind of in the middle. And it was just the best thing ever. It was just coping with kids, your peers, being able to laugh and joke about stuff that no one else in the world knows what you're going through at that time. You're so vulnerable, and yet we're getting these lessons on, what to expect when you go back to school or back to college, and, all kinds of stuff that you don't want to have conversations with other people, but you're fine having conversations with people who understand what you're going on. And that helped me get through, those 3 months that I was out there. But eventually, I came back. for the second semester of my senior year, graduated, and I knew that I wanted to go to college right away. I knew if I took a gap year, that there's probably a pretty good chance I wasn't ever going to go to college. And so I forced myself to, get better and kind of force my way into independence. So that summer I went back out to Craig, did another 3 months of outpatient rehab, and then I went to college. I went to SDSU for mechanical engineering, and I loved it. I lived a pretty normal college life. Tell my parents 30% of it, right? But no, it was awesome. But kind of as the years went on, and I started to get more and more independent and, living under my own means, I didn't have that community like I was used to having. I wasn't supported 24/7. I wasn't super active in my faith life. I didn't go to church every Sunday. I wasn't tapped into Oasis up there. And then, the weight of life kind of started hitting me, and as I started thinking about the next stages after college, Jeremiah 29:11, obviously we all heard that one. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to help you, not to harm you. Plans prosper you, not to harm you. Plans to give you hope in the future. And, obviously I knew that growing up. I was active in my faith in high school. I grew up in the church. I knew this stuff, and that stuff had helped carry me through it. But there was this weight of life that was starting to, I don't want to say sink in, but starting to get to me. And, God has a different plan for all of us, but man, is that hard to see sometimes. I'd think of questions like, how could this possibly be to help me prosper? Where is this giving me hope for my future? How could that be? And then, I'd question, what sins had I done in my life to cause this? Was it something that I had done or something I had been doing? Was this something that maybe God was saving me from doing something in the future? Is he saving me from doing stuff in college that that he would frown upon? And so it took me a long time to figure out the answer to that question. And kind of when this weight of life was nagging on me, and the answer is that God didn't do this to me. God does not punish us for our actions. He's a loving God and not a vengeful one. And that took me quite a while to grasp with. And the reason of that is, and I think we all do it, is we want a reason for the stuff that happens to us, right? And so when I look back at my accident and I watch that video and I see myself make a normal tackle that I'd made dozens, if not hundreds of times before, I know, well, it wasn't the tackle, so what was it? Was it God? And I think we all do that. The truth is, it was an accident. And accidents happen, and life happens. That's kind of the dark side of the blessing of free will, is bad stuff happens. And that doesn't mean that God does it. God doesn't do bad things to us. And so, as I understood that helped a lot. But, the weight of life still gets me down day to day, like it does for all of us, right? And I go down these rabbit holes of thoughts of how much better would my life be if this didn't happen to me? How much easier would it be? How much more put together would my life be? I'd probably be more, I don't know, maybe financially be more stable. I'd probably be happy all the time, right? I'd probably be jacked because I'd be working out and taking care of my body every day, right? No, that stuff isn't true. That's stuff that I want to be true because I think it's what's best for me, and I think that's the way life would be best. But I have no idea if any of that stuff's true. What I do know is true is there's no way in heck I'd be up here in front of you guys talking if this didn't happen to me. God is using me in ways that I never would have conceived imaginable if this didn't happen to me. And so, yeah, is it difficult? Yes, but that is Jeremiah 29:11 to a T, is the reason that I'm up here right now, is stuff happens, but when stuff happens in life, he has a plan to get you through it. He has a plan to help you with hope, and he wants you to prosper in your future. And so it's relying on him through the troubles of life that we go through. So, like, what lies do you tell you guys, yourselves every day? Like, if I didn't make that stupid choice, maybe if I would have got the job I wanted, or if I had everything like that guy over there has, or if I was, if I could just look like her, right? Or if I had, the muscles like that dude, like my life would be so much better. And you're going to keep telling yourself like that, but that's just a lie. It's lies that you're telling yourself to make it seem like that's the better life, and that's just not true. Sometimes it's just the tough things that we go through in life that make us who we are, right? It's the trials and the tribulations that we learn and become closer to God through all this. When all you have left to do is have faith and rely on God through life, to let go of control and have faith and hope. Romans 5:3-4 says, "Not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance character, and character hope." God is always working in us, but it's when you surrender and sacrifice the things that you want and live the way that he wants that he works through you, right? You might not change the circumstances for you. We were all praying for healing during those days. I had 20,000 people on Facebook rooting for me, praying for me. I get people that tell me all the time that they still pray for me to this day, right? And when you look at it from the outside, it looks like God didn't come through with his promise. But I'm here to tell you guys that he did. All of that healing was just done on the inside, right? And we're really good at asking God for what we want, but I think we can be really bad at accepting the way that he answers our prayers. When I look back in my senior year of high school and I think about what I thought I'd be doing when I was 24, I went to college. I had an awesome time at college. I graduated college. I have a good job now. All of this stuff that when I look at life and like what I wanted to be doing, like I'm doing all of the stuff that I thought I'd be doing. It just looks differently. And so we can't control the things that happen to us in life. But the one thing that you do get to control every single day is your attitude, right? Life sucks sometimes, but you just got to pick your head up and get through it and get on to the next day. And sometimes that season of life lasts longer than you'd like to, but there's going to be a time when you look back at your life and understand all of the blessings that came through it, and all of the blessings that came through it, and just like how much better of a person you are out of it. And that's all I got for you guys. So I just want to thank you for inviting me. And yeah, I'm open to questions, like Isaiah said. So don't be afraid to offend me or ask dumb questions. I'm literally an open book. I will answer any question you guys have. Yeah. Um, Honestly, so I get asked to do mental health talks for this. I say yes. I feel like I'm a bad person to talk about mental health with because I just didn't like, I was accepting of it from the beginning. Why? I couldn't tell you that. I don't think that's anything that I've done in my life to, I think it's just who I am. And so while I was accepting of it, I knew it was going to be really difficult to talk to my classmates when I got back and to go about everyday life and to ask people for help, to rely on my parents. So that kind of stuff is that I really like was joking about them with, stuff about worrying for the future, stuff like that. I was there to, I don't know, I wasn't looking for like help from them. I was looking for like friends to hang out with, honestly, because didn't have my friends there for me every day. Yeah. Yeah, so I kind of did a bad job of kind of skipping over the whole Craig part of things. Uh, so I'll get to that. One, my injury, C5, C6. So my shoulders work, my biceps work, my triceps don't. So I can't like straighten my arm over my head. My hands don't work. I have no movement or feeling below like my upper chest down. And so Craig and rehab in general was relearning how to do everything in life with what I have left, right? If I look back at that video of me like in the hospital bed, like not be able to feed myself, I've not functionally gained anything back from that moment. That's just the awesome thing about PT and like rehab and OT and stuff like that. And so if I think of like the therapy side of things, yeah, like obviously that stuff helped me tremendously. What we learned in track was like education. So like, what is it going to be like to date again, or like all kinds of stuff that like just education that no one else in the world is going to teach you. Like it's specific to us. And yeah, I would say it ran true for the most part. Obviously, everyone's in a different situation, different level of injury and stuff like that. And so, but yeah, I think it was really important education stuff that they kind of gave us. Every day. Every day I get, more and more independent. So like I said, I did not want to take a gap year. At that point when I went to college, I was not very independent at all, right? Like I was having someone help me into bed. I was having someone help me out of bed, help me get meals. At that point I could probably I could feed myself, but I wasn't going to like the cafeteria by myself and grabbing a meal and going back to my dorm. So, at that point, not very independent. Today, now I drive to work every day and I can dress myself and, do all of it. I would say 95 to 98% of daily life stuff. And then it's filling in the gaps of asking for help when I need to ask for help. Asking for help was one of the biggest hurdles that I had to get over, of being an independent 17-year-old kid who never wanted to spend time with my parents to needing everything from them, right? And so that was kind of difficult, but no, I would say independence is a day-to-day thing. I would say I'd probably get better at it every day the more I work at it. There are still things that I wish I could do, think I could do, but I just got to work at it. Anyone else? Anything? Yeah. Yeah, so I would say probably the biggest one is my family started a nonprofit out of this. It's called Game Plan for Hope. I'll give you a pretty brief lowdown on that. My story got really big, like I said. We had tons of people donating equipment and all of this kind of stuff. We didn't know what I was going to need, and so my parents accepted all of it. It sat in a storage unit for a couple of years, and then we decided we wanted to pay it forward. And so that's how half of it started. The other half was when stuff like this happens, and people are in the hospitals, there's no one there to tell you like how to go about that, right? So how to deal with insurance and maybe how to set up trust funds or any of that kind of stuff, emotional support, all of that kind of stuff. And so we saw a huge need for kind of knowledge and support in that area. And so about 5 years ago, my family found a Game Plan for Hope through that. So I would say that has been a really big thing that came through it. And then obviously, you know, for myself, I think doing these talks helps me kind of get through it too. Anyone? Yeah.
What's one goal that you're still working towards?
That's a good one. No, that's a good question. I said I'm an open book. I'll answer anything. So currently, I'm living at home. I would like to not be living at home, being 24, almost 25. So looking for a place in Sioux Falls. And I would say everything that comes with that. So cooking meals, grocery shopping, laundry, that kind of stuff. Stuff that I'm currently not doing, but like now I probably could do and will need to do. So that's a goal I have that like haven't even started really yet. I did cook some in college, but I don't know if you'd consider it cooking, more as like warming up, like frozen meals and stuff like that. But, so that's probably one. Anyone else? I'll ask a question that I get a lot. Get a lot of people who, well, especially two questions right away. You know, do I like blame football? Like, do I have any anger or hate towards the game? No, like not at all. Like, I was right after my injury, like I was telling, it was really difficult for my teammates and my coaches. There were talks of like maybe ending the season, and you know I didn't want that at all. Like I was like, no, go out there and like play. So they continued to do that. I was watching like NFL and stuff in my hospital room. So no, I had no anger. I don't think. Well, obviously, yeah. Football is a dangerous sport, but like you drive a car, you know how many people get hurt driving cars? Like, is that going to stop you? No. Like, you can't live life in fear. So, no, I do not have hate or anger towards football. It's an accident, actions happen. 2, if I could go back and not to that play, like, would I? Like, if I could go back and change it, like, would I? When I asked that, I think, wow, I've had 7 years to think about the answer to this question, so I've thought way too much about it. I think there's a lot of what ifs in that question, right? Like, 1, do I remember everything that I've gone through, right? Like, do I remember everything that I've gone through? If no, and it sounds dumb, but probably not. Like, I think I cherish my outlook on life and, you know, my faith in Jesus and in God now. Not that it was bad before, but when I think about like what it means to be a Christian, like my only goal in life should be to like get to heaven. So like why would it matter what I do with my life? Like why it shouldn't really matter if I'm paralyzed or not, right? Like I should just be trying to serve the Lord. So if I didn't remember anything, I would say no. But if I do remember everything, that becomes a little harder. Then there's a lot more questions, right? Like, okay, so that play I take off. Like, do I go back in the next play? Like, I don't know. Do I just not play football for the rest of my life? And then, say I set out that play, and then one of my teammates gets paralyzed. What do I think then? There's situations like that I've thought of in the last 7 years of like, would I go back? It's hard. I would say if I could remember everything, obviously if there's no repercussions, yeah. Like would I rather remember the lessons of life that I've learned in the last 7 years and not be paralyzed? Duh, right? But I think there's just a lot of what ifs in the question that I've thought of. So. Yeah, for sure. Like I still think of like, I don't know, someday maybe, would I want kids? Like what would it be like being a dad? Not being able to like my hands at work, just like even being a spouse, I don't know. Stuff like that is a little scary to think of, but I think that's probably normal for a lot of people. So other than that, honestly, no. I honestly don't get scared that much. One, like, how much worse is it going to get? And two, like, I don't know. My goal in life now is, for me to get to the gates of heaven and for God to say, well done, my good and faithful servant, right? And that's like all of us as Christians should be our goal. So worried about life? Not so much anymore. Yeah, he actually came up to the hospital room like within the last or within the first couple days with some teammates. I had teammates from other teams that we played too. Yeah, I made it known to him right away. Obviously, he felt terrible, but I was like, dude, I tackled you, first off. And two, so he felt terrible, but I made it known to him like, hey, dude, this isn't on you. This isn't your fault. What's that? I don't know. I mean, what do you mean by that? Goals in life? Goals in life. Right now, my biggest one, move out of my parents' house. Love my parents, but I'd rather not live with them. So, sooner rather than later would be awesome. If you don't get a realtor, hit me up. Handicap housing or ADA housing is not easy to come by. Other than that, I've done these talks probably close to a couple dozen times now. I enjoy different demographics. I've done it in front of crowds of like 400 people. I've done it in for youth groups and like FCAs in high school of like 10 kids. I like that everyone is different. I've been on a few podcasts. I think I would like to do like something a little bit bigger. So there's like the Res Gen Men's Summit. People have asked me to do not that, suggests that I should think about doing that. One, I'm not a great speaker. Like those people who are speakers, like they were born to be speakers, man. I was not an outgoing person in high school. I hated public speaking before this. Like this took a long time to get to this point, all right? So one, that'd be like a thing that I could maybe see myself doing. I think that'd be a good challenge. Other than that, I don't know. I kind of just go with the flow of life. No, and just because I don't think I'd be a good football coach. My middle brother Dalton, he's 6 years older than me. He's a football coach. He was actually a football coach on the team when I got hurt. No, he's the coach. I would not be a good coach. Great question. Not very often. They're clean all the time. If I get like leather shoes, they don't crease. But you know, the challenge is I got to be able to put them on myself. So I got to find something that I can get on myself. I actually just bought a pair of Nikes, low dunks. And there's a place in Sioux Falls that puts loops on them. So they say, so I'm a quadriplegic. They say that a quad's best friend is Velcro and loops. Very true. Velcro and loops saved my life. So I actually brought them to a place in Sioux Falls, and they're going to put loops on them. So we'll see if they work, hopefully. But yeah, literally, like, these ones are really white, so I'll have to wash them every once in a while, but buying, I wouldn't have a reason to throw them away. Well, thanks for having me, guys.